Hey, how are you going? Today, bring you to Tiritiri Matangi.
My mate's died.
An island that's been tossed by the wind, or at least according to the Maori legend anyway. Before we delve anywhere in, I need to give you a quick history lesson. What do you know about New Zealand's ecological history? Because New Zealand had a very unique ecological history. Because New Zealand split off from Pangaea a long time ago, New Zealand was occupied pretty much purely by birds and reptiles. And when you go to Tiritiri Matangi, you can get a slice of prehistory. Tiritiri Matangi is a small island off the coast of Hauraki Gulf, Auckland. It'll take you about 80 minutes and $90 to get on the ferry to go over there for a nice day's trip. And you know, another 80 minutes coming back the other way. This island has a pretty long and rich history. It's had a Maori pa, it's had a European settlement, or at least farming going on there. And of course, the modern conservation efforts that's been put in to bring all the old ecological life forms back in as it should be. The whole island has now turned into a bird sanctuary with the efforts of just the volunteers. Now join me as we discuss and explore past, present and future of this amazing island. Now, if we go back far enough, and according to Maori myths, Tiritiri Matangi is a float off of one of the ancestral fishing moors. The island was settled by a Maori tribe known as Kaiwaru Amaki tribe, who built their pa, also known as a Maori settlement or fortification, from which the island takes its name. Ngāti Paua, Ngāi Tai, and the Marutuau iwi also has ancestral links going back to that island. And because of this, there are several archaeological sites on the island, including two pas, a whare, terraces, food storage pits, and a midden site. And these sites show that the Maori were settled and exploring the coast for the island for food dating back to about 14th century. During this time, the Maori cleared part of the old forest out, and then that forest, whatever was left, was further cleared up by the Europeans who had begun farming operations there. As the land became Crown owned in 1841, and a farmer leased the land from the Crown to have his stock graze on the island's natural grass starting in 1850. Farming operations were generally concentrated around Hope's Beach, where there was a wool shed, a cattle run, a cottage and a shipyard, as well as where the boat to come in, drop the cattle off, and also pick the cattle off to go to the auction house, slaughter, all that stuff. And that farming continued until the 1970s. Due to all that farming, the island really retained very little of its original vegetation. Island was pretty much completely barren of forests, except for some potukau trees that the government asked the farmer not to cut down, as it may come in handy for firewood later. Pretty funny how conservation happens in mysterious ways, but some of these potukau trees are absolutely humongous and gorgeous. Tiritiri Matangi also houses one of the oldest and longest standing lighthouses in Auckland, and really most of all of New Zealand. The lighthouse was built in Britain in 1841, shipped over piece by piece, and then bolted together to create the lighthouse that we have now. And initially it was painted red and white like all British lighthouses for whatever reason. It also had the record of having the brightest light in the southern hemisphere. The lighthouse complex on Tiritiri is one of the few surviving lighthouse complexes in all of New Zealand, with a settlement and lighthouse keepers' houses still intact, especially one that can be easily accessed by the public. It includes a signal mast, a horn, foghorn, a lighthouse keeper's house, and of course a visitor center where you can get some free coffee and tea, though donations are very much welcome. And then during World War II, this island was part of Auckland's harbour defences, as New Zealand feared that the Japanese would come in and invade us because, we hold so much strategic value. It did, however, house a fortress observation post where the Navy personnel will be positioned to spot incoming vessels and identify them. However, most importantly, and I think more interestingly, though World War II is pretty interesting, I'll do a video on New Zealand fortifications about World War II at some point. We went pretty overboard. Anyway, since 1984, Tiritiri Matangi has been through a complete overhaul by community volunteers who have begun works as a habitat restoration program, and the island is now deemed a wildlife sanctuary.
It's too early. Different. They're sort of lower plantings, cabbage trees and tea trees and flax. The most fabulous of places.
Unwanted predators have been eradicated, and rare native birds such as kokako and the takahe, which was once thought to be extinct, by the way, survive, or in fact they thrive in this now regenerating native forest. The project has been so successful that they're actually exporting native birds to other islands because they have so many of them now. Though from what my guide told me, a lot of them just fly back to Tiritiri because apparently Tiritiri is very nice. The island also houses and is home to other threatened species such as tuatara, wetapunga, takahe, and the hihi. The island is currently managed by the Department of Conservation in partnership with supporters of Tiritiri Matangi Incorporated, a completely volunteer group, by the way, that helps with planting, monitoring, and fundraising. So, let's have a deep dive at how they achieved all of these things.
Yeah, but it's sort of, the holes begin to occur naturally on some of these old trees.
The first step in rejuvenating the island was removing all the unwanted predators from the island, and these included rats, mice, rabbit, hedgehogs, and of course feral cat. This was done by using traps, poison baits, and hunting dogs. And the island was deemed officially predator-free in 1993 after confirming complete absence of any and all mammalian predators. The next step was to revegetate the island so that the birds could have food and shelter. Over 280,000 trees were planted by volunteers between 1984 to 1994, covering nearly 60% of the island. The remaining 40% was left to rejuvenate naturally through seed dispersal with birds, as well as the wind and just natural spreading of the forest. And the planting was carried out very, very carefully and was planned as to provide proper ecological care for all sorts of different species, as well as considering the soil conditions as well as historical vegetation level. There has been some hoo-ha, let's say, about what kind of trees are all right to plant and what aren't, because there are some non-native trees there, but how far do you go in the point of ecological preservation? And of course the final step was to reintroduce the native species that had gone missing and or extinct from the mainland as well as the island itself. Between 1984 and 2011, 12 different species of native birds, as well as 1 reptile and 1 species of insects were translocated onto the island from other surrounding, better preserved islands, or some sort of breeding facility that we have around New Zealand. And these included some of the most iconic, but also some of the most threatened species in New Zealand, such as the kokako, the takahe, the tuatara, and the wetapunga. And because this translocation was done with their genetic diversity in mind, these animals were able to thrive and repopulate the island. And the results of this restoration efforts have just been remarkable. Tiritiri Matangi is now home to over 70 species of birds and endangered animals, many of which were near extinction or are incredibly rare to find anywhere else in the world, let alone New Zealand.
You will notice,
or are
I'll put the visitor
completely
centre.
endemic to New Zealand.
There are a number of
As I said, some of
with
these
bands
birds
on.
have been so successful that they have been spread to other parts of New Zealand to hopefully repopulate other islands as well as parts of the mainland. And over 2,000 birds have been translocated out of Tiritiri Matangi. And of course, aside from the birds, the island is also a home to the tuatara, which is an ancient reptile that predates any dinosaurs. So who says New Zealand never had dinosaurs? We have something even cooler. Come on. There are also these super cool penguin nesting boxes where korora, or the little penguins, they're like super tiny, they're adorable, come and lay eggs in these little nesting areas. So if you visit the island during breeding season, you might be able to catch some of them nesting on an egg or sleeping in the boxes. And of course we got super lucky being able to peek into their little homes and say hello to some of the penguins. Well, they were sleeping pretty peacefully, but yeah. And lastly, the wetapunga, which is a giant insect that can grow up to 10 centimeters tall, have repopulated on the island after actually being extinct from mainland New Zealand for over a century. I mean, just look at some of these birds here thriving and doing things that they never can on the mainland.
The third wattle bird was the huia, pretty much ready to go in 3 months. They're also connected with death.
And I hope that one day that New Zealand can repopulate the mainland with these birds as we get rid of more and more pests and we bring back the unique ecosystem that we had once before. Have a look at places like Wellington, where they've managed to actually clear a whole peninsula out of all predators and have kept it that way for several years now. And hopefully that can spread all the way through New Zealand and bring hope and native life back to the mainland. Tiritiri Matangi is not just a sanctuary for birds and reptiles and insects, but also for people. The island attracts over 20,000 visitors every year who come to enjoy the natural beauty and learn about the conservation history. And like I said, it's the $90 ferry and $10 to speak to some of the most knowledgeable people about the island I have ever met, who will give you guided tours. Just $10 for their time is just, you're underpaying. And the island has other self-guided tours or trails and a visitor center, as well as just being a great way to spend a whole day. And of course, the island is a valuable place for education and scientific research, as there is nowhere quite like it where they can study the more natural, ecological, New Zealand diversity animal words. Words are hard. And I think Tiritiri Matangi is a testament to what we can achieve as people if we work on it together. Because like I said, it was done all by volunteers. People were dragging their fishing boats out to take people over there, carrying bags of planting material to go and repopulate the island. And it is proof that humans, and it is standing proof that humans can protect biodiversity and restore degraded ecosystems if we want to. There's a place where history meets nature, where humans can meet wildlife, and where past meets present. It is an island that inspires hope for the future for our planet. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that little story about Tiritiri Matangi. I sure did. I absolutely loved my visit. If you're ever in Auckland, please do go visit. Support the volunteers of Tiritiri Matangi. And if you've really enjoyed this video and my passionate tirade, please subscribe and expect more videos like this where I just talk about stuff and put clips of stuff. Join my Discord, hit subscribe if I didn't say that already. Anyway, cheers, goodbye, see you later.